Welcome home. We are WNST, AM 1570, Taos of Baltimore. We are Baltimore positively into the waiting is the hardest part, as Tom Petty once sang. The Ravens will have a new coach soon. Luke Jones will be in Owings Mills when the purple plumes of smoke come out above the dungeon. This guy sponsors our WNST tech service. He is Bill Cole from Cole Roofing and Gordian Energy. He is my consigliere here, and but I haven't had you on the show in like 10 weeks, 12 weeks. Last time I had you on, the Ravens were 1-5, and then we're 5-1, blah, 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 blah. And we haven't talked a lot of sports because it sort of bores you to some degree because you're like, we like talking about the whole reason you became a sponsor was so I would talk about charitable things, have a cup of Super Bowl, which we're doing in 2 weeks, talk about the world, have Johnny O on, have Republicans, Democrats, city, county, all that. I do all of that. But every 18 years, can we just focus on getting a friggin' head
Right.
coach around here and fixing the football team, Billy? Can we?
Well, no, but we can talk about the leadership that goes along with all of that stuff.
Well,
So
that's where
that's
I focused
interesting.
it, and that makes
Yeah.
me a bad guy. So let everybody know this is your idea to talk leadership,
Ah,
not mine.
okay, sure, fair enough. I'll own that. I'm
All
I'm
right, all
okay with
right. So
that. I'm
you're
okay with
bringing
that.
the leadership conversation in because I had Raskin on, and he was doing a little fanboy out. So you've witnessed most of the press conference and this and that. Um, let's get into it because I slept on it, which I hadn't when I talked to Luke about it. And I'm just sort of like, the fans don't matter that much. I'm checked out. I'm not going to get on the Zoom calls because I don't, if I get on one, I got to get on all. Like, why would I want to talk to Jim Schwartz about football for an hour or Matt Nagy about football? Like, it's insane. But like, I looked at it and I'm like, well, some fans just like that he said, "Oh shit," about Mike Tomlin. Good.
Right.
He's
Yeah.
one of
That was
us. He
that was
cusses like a
funny.
guy from
Right.
Glen Burnie. Like,
That was funny.
I didn't get it. I like, but where are you?
I think that he could have answered the fan question a little better, right? Like I think that even if you know that the reality of the situation is that his people have all the data to try and make the best decision, and that us as fans, we're just armchair quarterbacking. So what we think really doesn't matter. I still think that that's sort of an opportunity for you to say, like, yeah, some people are going to love it, some people are going to hate it, but like everybody's going to fall in love with this guy because we're going to win another Super Bowl, right? So like you have a chance in there to sort of build a connection point to the fans because we do care, right? And I mean, 18 years of John, you get pretty used to him looking around. Brian Billick probably started all that. Well, maybe Ted Marchbroad, I don't know who, but like characters in that role, right? That people connect with and then love to criticize and whatever. And that's part of the fun of the sport. Um, so for him to maybe not have a better sort of fake answer, to me that just speaks to sort of the genuineness of how Bisciotti showed up, which I had to
He was
ask
not
you.
rehearsed. I mean, there's no
Right.
question about that.
Right. I had to ask you, like, 8 years since we've actually heard from him. Like, that's crazy to me. I,
That's
and I can't,
inappropriate.
I
And
can't believe
nobody's
that.
around to tell him that that's inappropriate.
Yeah. So,
He just decided I should only come after we lose and when the building's on fire. I don't know what to say, man. And especially when Sashi Brown is a zero as a leader, a zero on the streets, a zero in the media, a zero in my life to sit here and answer questions on his behalf, behind the scenes, in front of the scenes, in front of the public, at social events when I run into these people, like I ran into Katie Griggs last week. Like, I
I
don't
do
know,
think,
dude. Like, there was nothing about it that made you or me want to run back down there and give them money. And, dude, we've given them a phone number. Like, when I think about the hundreds of
yeah,
thousands of dollars that I have
right,
put into
right.
Ravens tickets here and away, just the tickets, let alone the flights and the hotels and whatever money I made on road trips and whatever money I spent on road trips and fried chicken and beer and whatever sponsorships and whatever came my way as someone who makes a living in this space, which and has been boxed out because they don't want questions from people like me because I put some pretty good questions up Baltimore Pos. You might want to read them, Bill. But I looked at it and thought, like, I said to my wife, she came and said, "How did it go?" And like, my wife knows Steve. You know what I mean? Like, I know Steve. Steve's been in my home. Like, I don't know what this version is, but you said something to me, and I'm going to let you say it your way because you and I, people know we're friends in the real world. Even though I don't have a damn coffee mug, you still owe me. I'm drinking out of a non-sponsored coffee mug because I broke yours. By the way, Bill Cole from Cole Roofing's here, which is why I'm being flippant. Um, you said when we got on the line, I'm like, hey, you want to talk about AI? You want to talk about life? How about that Trump thing? Hey, how about people in the city? How about people look like me getting thrown in? How about the lady that got shot in Minnesota? You're like, no, 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 I want to talk about Bisciotti, and I'm like, oh, you do? And you said he comes off as, I'll let you,
uh, and and
yeah, you're going to
an
say it a little different than
extreme
what,
an extremely wealthy person who is spending most of their time managing their money, which is probably totally what happens to everyone that reaches his level of wealth. The managing of the wealth becomes the job. Like, I don't, number one, he gets positive points for me because he was genuine in the press conference. So even if that genuineness is someone that I don't want to know better or don't like, you're still, I want you to be genuine as a human,
well, he showed up
right?
for the first time in 8 years. The first question is, where the hell have you been? Kind of, sort of, right? Out of the gate.
Uh yeah, I don't know. I don't think that anybody in the room really
Dude, he
cares.
came in ready to
Like
fight.
he was
And I'm not even
interestingly
in the room.
nervous. He was nervous. It looked like he was nervous, or at least to your point, preparing for a confrontation, which
He tapped the mic so much that I had to Google the psychology of what tapping. I literally took a screenshot of like he was agitated before it began. Like I literally, and I don't know where that
we don't want to spend,
prize fighter in him comes out looking like he wants to swing. Dude, these are customers. And this is what I used to speak to his former coach about. And his former coach, bird up, and I saw John, John get that thing going in his chin. Like I said to John early on, like 2009 or 10, and I'm thinking to myself, this is Kevin Burns' job, and it probably pissed Kevin Byrne off, but I'm having cereal with John in the cafeteria at 7 o'clock in the morning, and he got pissed off. I said something about special teams, and he lost his mind, which is what he said to Steve in the end. I was a special teams coach, and you loved me. And that's pretty much what I said to him at breakfast, but it really pissed him off in 2009. But John, when I said to John, after watching it for like a year, and knowing Brian the way I knew Brian, and Brian was about to become my partner, was my partner at that point, 9 or 10. I just remember this vividly. I remember a lot of things about John Harbaugh. I remember John Harbaugh affected me. I'll remember John Harbaugh the rest of my life. He was the guy that came in here lucky to get a gig and left with $200 million and saying that I'm not a media member, which is tells me all I need to know about John Harbaugh. But Harbaugh said to me that day, breakfast, just he and I said, who do you think your audience is when you're in there with the media? Like, we're in there after a game, before the game. When you're at a press conference, who do you think your audience is? He said, my players. I'm talking to my players. I'm like, John, that's what that's for. The auditorium. Like, you're talking to the fans. Like, and sometimes I had to pull Brian would honestly tell you, and Brian, and I would go into Brian sometimes and he'd say something flippant to Mike Preston. And I would go into him after the game and I'd say, Brian, that wasn't cool. Like, don't take it out on the media guys. I mean, I don't like Preston either, but don't, like, be above, you're talking to the fans. And Brian knew that. I mean, Brian went to school for PR. I mean, Brian's one of the, I love
right,
Brian. But,
right,
but John, I don't
okay.
think ever understood that. And I think Steve goes in there. I don't know who he thinks his audience is. You know what I mean?
It's
Like, if
it's
he's really thinking
similar.
about who the audience is.
I think it's similar to John's answer. So if the biggest risk in your day to day is that your players see some clip on social media and decide they don't feel like practicing hard, or they're going to hold out, or they're going to start dissension in the locker room, that is a much bigger risk to the longevity of your career than pissing the fans off. Because as we can see, the company makes money because of the TV deal, right? And the people come. Maybe they don't come as much as they used to, but they still come. There is a perception from the NFL that the bucket of fans is endlessly deep, right? And that all focus needs to be internal and how they get these players because it's such an overwhelming job to try and take a guy who's been the best at what he does since he was 7 years old, right? To now all of a sudden realize that he isn't the best and that he's got to get better. Uh so that could be that's definitely part of the perception problem. For Steve, where I think we and I think we've talked about this in the past, like you know, I can admit to making this mistake on a tiny little level relative to Bisciotti, but like it sounds like a really good idea to run a parking lot for Ravens game days and throw a tailgate party, right? And try and make a little money
I
on
remember when you
Sunday.
called me with this idea, by the way,
Right. And that sounds like a great
just to
idea.
confirm that I'm your consigliere sometimes. So yeah.
Correct. But the idea is that when you take something fun and you turn it into a business, it erodes the fun and it becomes work.
You
And
think the
that's what,
fist fights I broke up in the same parking lot that I did 10 years before with
right.
Steelers and Ravens fans underneath the Stony Case sign that are now apartments down there? And when the landlord came out and said I had to grade the land to get the water,
Yeah.
no, this is no
So,
longer about chasing girls, drinking beer, and watching football, eating wings.
so for Steve, he took something that was fun, right? He was a fan and he turned it into a business. Then he has spent, how many years has he been the owner?
26 now, in and
Holy
out,
cow. I don't,
22 as the
I don't even
soul.
want to, that makes me feel really old. So, uh,
David left in '05. Yeah. Okay.
he put all these layers in between him, right? And he wants them to just do their job. So he works remote. He's in the background
He
because
invented remote work.
he's trying to get back to that fan place, right? And that fan place for him only shows up when you win the Super Bowl now, right? Because every other outcome comes with questions or press conferences or firing
It
your
could come,
friend for
but there's
18
31
years.
other places
Like,
where it could come with joy and community and a sense that I live here and that I'm not a remote owner and that I give a damn and I'm gonna show up more than every 8 years. And
yeah, but it's
he
hard
looks
because the only
burdened.
time,
He looks
yeah,
burdened, dude.
right. Because the only time they ever call you, right? You've built this organization now. The only time they ever call him is when the video of Ray Rice comes out. And
Well,
because, when the
and
really
that's because
bad
their
stuff
culture's bad
happens.
to begin with. That's because their culture is bad to begin with.
But that,
So that's
and
what I
that,
wrote about last week. And he doesn't acknowledge that because the winning masks it. And by the way, this is an amazing stat. Are you ready for this, Bill? I looked this one up. The team was worth in 2017, going into 18, $2.3 billion. Do you know what Forbes and Sportico says it's worth now?
six,
Six. So
I
he
see it.
has
I saw it,
made $4 billion since the last time he appeared in front of the fans.
which is a burden. I think that's really hard to hear, but like he had, there's no joy per billion for him in this. Is
Clearly,
my sense. That's my
clearly.
sense, right? Right. That's my sense. And to the
He
culture,
once told me when he was strumming guitar in my condo late at night. You remember when he comes to my house? It was 20 years ago. I
yeah.
remember. I remember every part. It was 2006. It was before the Kyle Bowler Indianapolis Monday night game. It was after a Journey concert at Rams Head. He insisted he had to pee, and I had a house with a bathroom. And he's like, "Jump in, take me to your place. I need to pee." And the next thing you know, 2 hours later, he's strumming a guitar on my couch.
Right.
And he said to me that night about being wealthy. He said, and this we were looking at this literally. This is where I lived. He looked out
Right.
the window. I showed him the stadium. He had never seen it from that angle. He light was glowing purple. It
Sure.
was kind of new at that point. He was a new owner. It was 2006. He was just new to it. And he said to me, "The only thing I can do that you can't do is get a plane and fly somewhere that you can't fly right now. Every other thing you have the ability to do, You wanted a limo and go to a concert in DC, you could have it. You want to fly to California with your wife, you'll go do it. If you want to go, you just went to Australia. You're like he's like, you can do anything you want to do that you really want to do in your life. You want to play around at golf, you can go play around at golf. You want to go play it in Florida, you can do
Right.
everything. You want to eat a steak tonight, you can have a steak tonight. Everything in the world. I'm a billionaire, but the only thing that's really a benefit to me is I can drop a dime and get my own plane and fly somewhere. Other than that, he literally could not say to me 20 years ago what the benefit of having so much more money would be than you and I. Like literally.
Right.
And that's the way he portrayed it to me flippantly, just like what you see is what you get on the press conference, right? Like I just think his personality over the more money he's gotten, it's very Trumpian. It's obstinate. It's not attractive. It's not attractive to women at all. And I know you have some thoughts about that as well. But what the checked out the remote and the burden part and the belligerent part that I talk about, like all of that, can I be really? I think it's sad. I feel I like it's the same way I felt about Angelos. As I get older, I'm not angry with Steve, mad at Steve. I just think it's so sad that
Yeah.
this isn't more joyous for him because I'm telling you, watching it, there's nothing about it that made it feel more joyous for me. And as someone who's invested my life in doing it and saying it, oh, I did all of that, and this guy's made billions of dollars, and I'm locked out, and he's not answering questions, and I'm the village ass on social media because I got locked out somehow because they don't have any sense of culture or responsibility. Because have you met the owner? He's checked out. You know, he said to Harbaugh last year. I watched this 30-minute piece that Harbaugh and Bisciotti, it was a year ago. It was last March at the owners' meetings. They sat with Garrett Downing from the website. And it's just uncomfortable seeing them together in a general sense, knowing both of them like the way they really are on the set together, even for their own company, how awkwardly weird it was. And Bisciotti making jokes about Harbaugh's salary and like, I just signed you. You're making more money than me. And I watched that before it got going, and he said something to Harbaugh. It's life or death for John. It's not life or death for me. He said that 11 months
Yeah.
ago. And now I find a guy in the hiring cycle who feels that way. And I would even think like, I don't know, maybe Jim Schwartz or Kevin Stefanski thinks it's a great idea that the owner is checked out. It might not be up their ass, but if they're 1-4, the owner's going to be up your ass. And if the stadium's emptied out and doesn't fill in, the owner's going to be up your ass.
Well, you got to win
And
a Super Bowl in 5 or 6 years, or you're getting fired. Like that. That was
well, but that's the job for every coach taking the gig here, right? You better hope it's not 1 or 2 years and Lamar's
right.
something, 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 and then it really,
Right.
and Eric DeCosta's on the way out, and Steve's like, "I'm done. This isn't fun. I'm
Right.
selling the team to the Gypsies. You'll be wishing you had me. You'll do worse than me." And maybe he's right. I mean, I'm looking at Rubenstein versus Angelos, and I don't, like I'm looking at it. But you've had a masculine thought about how it looked to you.
Yeah, but I want to keep like I think what you saw in that press conference was him like it was I think they probably are friendly, John and Steve. Like I think that after 18 years, right? And
Oh, I think they love each other. I don't think there's any
okay.
question about that.
So well, but if they loved each other, I don't know why sitting with him in an interview would be awkward or give off weird vibes. Like if you truly do care about that person, it should have seemed better. But anyway,
It,
I
it
think the
seems
part of
like
it,
a billionaire and his
okay.
$200 million coach trying to keep his job. It feels like, by the way, Luke reported to me for the first time ever at a press conference. Luke's like, all the PR people had earpieces. It was like a CI, it was like Cash Patel showed up. Like just the whole optics of the press conference itself was uniquely unique to it
Right.
in that it's just all image, dude. You know what
Right.
I mean?
Shut it
Like
down. Shut it down. Shut it
yeah,
down. We're
yeah. I,
X Phil. We don't want to answer that question. I don't know. I think he went out of his way to do right by John. Like the things that he said about John's leverage in any, job search conversation, like he didn't have to say all that stuff. And I think that was his a friend doing a friend a solid. Like he just said, take a year off. I'll pay you. I don't care. go enjoy it with your wife. Or you have the most leverage that you'll probably ever have in getting a job, so go get a job. Like he did right by him. But you mentioned culture and like so culture comes from the top, right? The top is remote. The top is working on, and these are all, like we said, we don't know what really gets him out of bed, so we don't know what he's driving for. Jerry Jones is very out front with what he's chasing. Steve seems less so. But like he's Steve is working on building enough distance so that he can go to the game as a fan again and enjoy it. And I don't know if that'll ever happen, but it's what he seems to be building, right? If I build enough distance, I can get back to just the genuine fun of rooting for my team and watching sports. But that
He can't see
neglect,
how powerful he is, just how differently Eric DeCosta purports himself when he's next to him on a podium. How
well,
uncomfortable Eric looks at various times. And Eric loves him and he loves Eric, but it is very much you work for effing God. And
that
don't forget it. And
right,
he walks into the room as that, and that unto itself is onerous, dude. It's heavy.
that distance that Steve's creating means that culture comes from that next tier down, right? Your head coach, your president, and your GM. And even in that situation where I know you're going to disagree with this premise,
Oh,
but
I'm going after you on this. So go ahead. Go, come on.
but
I'm
let's
looking over
let's
your shoulder
just
and I'm going to go after you, but go ahead.
let's just pretend for a second that all three of those positions are filled by people with the exact same culture, mission, values, all three of them. They're still going to deliver every day in a slightly different way, which will create conflict inside the culture, right? That's why they say culture comes from the top down. Because if the boss doesn't care about this, if the boss doesn't care about the fans, because in this singular situation, the fans really don't have anything useful to offer relative to the head coach we
Other than their
hire.
money, other than their money.
Well, just about the head coach. Like, I don't need the opinion of all my fans to find the best head coach. I don't need that. I have
Fair
enough
enough. I would
experts
agree
for
with
that.
that.
Okay. But it still doesn't matter because the statement that was made was that their opinion doesn't matter. So if the next three guys, right? The head coach, the GM, and the president only hear the words that the fans don't matter, how do you think they're going to behave? And so Steve isn't responsible for the culture because he's not there enough to actually impact the culture. But that by default means that he's responsible for the culture because of his distance. He is allowing three other people to have impact. Like Ozzie Newsome was like culturally better than I think Eric can be, right? Because Ozzie, Hall of Fame, tight end, like came from, I don't know the man. My perception of him is he is like salt of the earth,
He
right?
is.
And like that moves throughout the organization, right? Every interaction that he has with all the people. Eric
Comes with
is,
respect because Ozzy is a
yeah,
respectful person.
right. And Eric is a different person, right? Eric's path was different. Eric wanted to be in the football business. You know what I mean? Like he grew through the ranks. He learned the job from Ozzy, one of the best. Like so, just his whole persona and what he gives off from a culture standpoint is going to be different than what Ozzy was. Sashi Brown is not Dick Cass, right? Say whatever you want, good, bad, and different. They're different people. We're going to get a new head coach. It's going to be different than John Harbaugh. John Harbaugh was different than Brian Billick, who was different than Ted Marchibroda, and blah blah blah. But when the owner's not involved, then these people are left to assert their own perception or how they want the culture to be, and they hire the other people that are supportive of the way they want the culture to be,
Let
and
me
so on and
ask
so
you. Let
forth.
me ask you this. I'm looking over your shoulder. By the way, Bill Cole's here. I see your dad picture behind you, like in your on the Zoom. How many
Uh,
kids you got?
three.
All right. So they
Proud
all
of the
get
fact that I didn't
together. You
hesitate
go
enough
in
to
the
count.
house and something happens in the backyard and forget their ages. Doesn't even matter.
Yeah,
That's not
yeah,
even the
yeah.
point. Something
Yeah.
happens in the backyard that's bad. Do and they know they should tell you about it. They know they should tell you about it. But do they tell you about it? Do they solve it? Do they cover it up? Do they bury it in the backyard, hide it, and say we're never going to tell dad about that? Blood, pinprick, little blood, right? Like that
Sure.
is dangerous for dad when dad has to pay the bills and the insurance and the cops knock on dad's door or the tax man or whatever the thing would be that would bring accountability to dad, that the kids would have hidden something. I'm telling you on the Ray
Unfortunately,
Rice thing, and I'm
yeah, yeah, yeah.
telling you on
Hold
the
on.
Justin Tucker thing, and I'm telling you on other things in the building, and I am my own God's witness of being a customer, a fan that cannot in any way rationally explain to you as my one of my best friends what Chad Steele has represented and what they've done, that none of it makes any sense at all. To me, even when he tells me about it, I laugh in his face because it is so underhanded and it's so um disingenuous, just all of it. It's so Chad Steele. I don't know what else to say. You'd have to talk to him a little bit or ask around. But there is no going to dad when Ray Rice punches his wife in the elevator. Their whole culture is to hide it and deny it. Hide it, deny it. Hide it, deny it. And that's their culture. And I don't know whether that comes from Dick Cass. I kind of thought it came from Harbaugh, to be really honest with you. And I don't know.
Right.
I really don't know. I don't
I
think it would be Ozzy's, and I certainly didn't think it would be Kevin Burns' thought. And Dick Cass being a lawyer. I mean, the place does feel like a place that's been run by a lawyer for the last 20 years, right? Like, for sure. That is the vibe you get. But the vibe of Bisciotti checking in and checking out, it's really wild to see what showed up on the podium this week and where he is in his life. To your point in mind, he's made billions of dollars by checking out. He's made more money by far not being around than he was in tears firing Billick and taking everything I said on the radio or anybody, Mike Preston, seriously. I mean, for crying out loud. If you care what Mike Preston writes, you should care a lot more about the upper deck unloading than you should care about Mike Preston or me. But I ask way better questions than Mike Preston, and I've asked real questions about their culture, which goes back to the dad thing behind you. That when something goes wrong, and Sashi and John and Eric know about it, what does it take to get to Steve, to get a vote? Who votes? Who's in charge? This is the football side. By the way, I've had media people who have been harassed by Chad Steele have Sashi Brown say, I'm not in charge of Chad. And I had John Harbaugh and Eric DeCosta say, Chad works for Sashi, doesn't work for me. So, like, the amount of bullshit that comes out of their place in a general sense does speak to absentee owner and too big to fail. And it really speaks back to the first thing you said to me that you won't admit on the air, in regard to he's just a wealthy dude. He's got a lot of money and they work for a wealthy dude and they can keep their gig and money's flowing in and wins are flowing in. Doesn't matter what Ray Rice did or Justin Tucker did. Doesn't matter if the upper deck empty. Doesn't matter anything. Makes daddy feel good. Daddy feels good when the kids don't come with the problems. Daddy feels good when things are
uh,
buried in the backyard and the
no,
kids keep it away, as long as daddy never finds out about it. And daddy can at least say when
which
the cops knock on the
never.
door, I didn't know anything about it. The kids did it in the backyard. They did it. You sons of, like, how could you not tell dad about this? Like,
Right.
I can't explain it any better than that when crazy stuff's going on in the building, like harassing me and throwing me out of my seats and pretending I'm not a media member to this day. And it's pretending Jeff Zrebeck and Jamison Hensley are local reporters and his favorite reporters. Like, just picking on Jerry Coleman, just all of it was just sort of like, you guys are buying it. Like, I'll be back on the plane. Can we get that? Can we get this over with? Geez, I'm surprised you guys are as nice to me as you've been. I thought you guys would be worse. But the thing that I said to Luke that shocked me a little bit about him was that it felt like from the first question that he didn't even consider the questions that were going to come his way. Like that he was ready for some sort of fight. And when the questions came, it was almost like, well, let me think about that. And I thought, it's kind of weird, that he didn't know the 12 questions he was getting in a general sense and at least have some full idea of what he was going to disclose and not, which really speaks to the fact that he's not even listening to Chad Steele because Chad would be coaching him up and giving him a script. It clearly wasn't the case, right? That they wanted the optics of real Steve. Well, we got real Steve, for sure. We got real Steve.
Research that we can do is like when they went from Billick to Harbaugh, like, did they have a prepared statement? Because he didn't have a prepared statement. Like he could have had a prepared statement. It could have been really short. Just, hey, after 18 years, like we got to move on. Da, 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 da. He's like, well, your questions will cover it all. So let's just get into it. Eric, you got a statement? And Eric kind of like scrambled a little bit and was like, yeah, well, yeah, blah, blah, blah. And like, okay, questions. So I thought that was a weird opening. Like when Steve was a new owner, right? Did comms and PR say, hey, here's how we're going to run this press conference. Here you come with this opening statement. Let's set the record.
Listen, I've known Kevin from the beginning.
Oh, I
Kevin's
just think
first
that was
thing off
weird.
the boat was, don't lie to him, dude. Just don't, we'll be covering that shit. Just don't lie to him. That's why
Right.
I could never believe that Ray Rice holding his cell phone in front of her, like lying, was like, whose idea? Like to this day, it is one of the biggest PR disasters in the history of sports. Like most people look at it as a crisis management, like what not to do. Prop your player up and say he's innocent when you got video of him in a glass elevator beating his wife. Like, and the last thing you wanted to talk about was how male it is that in any job search to say who the guy we're going to hire is, that's just unprecedented in our culture, right?
Yeah, I just thought that was interesting. Like, I don't know why my brain went off, but yes, when they talk about the next head coach, every time it was he, him, and it's like not even, and I just don't think in anywhere else in America, in corporate America, is that like the case. Like, that there might be a woman that is the best candidate. So you have
I
to
tell you
leave.
what, if a
It's like
woman
the
was
next
running the
person.
Ravens the last 10 years, it would be a lot different kind of organization.
It's just interesting that in today's world, that that hit my brain. Like I noticed that he was talking about a he as a foregone conclusion. And
There was
okay, that's
nothing that was
probably true,
appealing
right?
to
But
to
like,
women about that press conference in regard to like he seems like he'd be a nice guy to work for. I'd just
well,
be
I
honest
don't,
with you.
I don't, yeah, I don't even think it matters. I think he's very overt about the fact that I am busy being a rich owner guy. And like to your story about dad and the kids in the backyard, like, unfortunately, and this is kind of an unfair way of the world, but it's the way it is. If dad's in Florida and the problem's in Maryland, yeah, there's a real small chance that the kids are telling dad about what's going on. So, like, being absent is always going to have you removed. And again, it's this chasing the fun as the owner, right? Trying to build the distance between you and all the work that goes into it. That now, if he looks at it, he probably doesn't like the culture. He probably doesn't like the business of it. Now he's behind the curtain. Now
He would say that's why I don't want to work in it. I mean, literally, that's
yeah,
what he would say about the NFL. He'd say,
yeah,
I don't
right,
want to be around those guys enough to like. It won't
right.
fulfill me to be hanging out with these guys,
So I
dealing
don't
with
know
the problems
where,
they have with
yeah,
CTE and all the off the field stuff. Bill Cole is here. He's Cole. Listen, give me a mug, not a mug shot. All right, just
I
a
got
mug.
you.
All right.
I got you.
Cole Roifing and Gordian Energy he takes care of people around here. Also sponsors our WNST Tech service, and I think we got everything in. Next time we'll talk about
It's
something
good.
easier,
All
politics.
right.
All right, we'll talk about
Appreciate you.
Venezuela and who's running. You the new president of Venezuela?
No.
Back for more right after this. For Baltimore Positive. Stay with us.